Erev Tov Kibbutz Sasa. Good morning in Sarasota. Greetings to all of our friends around the United States, around Israel, around the world. My name's Wayne Firestone. I'm so delighted to be with you here on Sunday, where we are going to be celebrating compositions of triumph and love. And yes, this theme of love is going to shine throughout our episode today for lots of different reasons as we explore the body of work of Ella Milch-Sheriff, which itself could cover hours, but we're doing our best today to fit it into an hour episode. And we want today also to acknowledge a minor holiday in the Jewish scheme of the calendar, but maybe something that needs to be more of a major holiday the more I think about it. It's called Tu B'Av, and it's a holiday that is post-biblical, so not everybody knows about it, but dates to the Second Temple period in Israel, and is very much a holiday to celebrate joy and love. And I sort of want to begin by giving everyone the opportunity, because we're going to hear a wonderful opportunity to really see how one person interprets love in her compositions and in her body of work of life. But I would love it if you were able to put into the chat anyone that you would like to honor today with love. The holiday takes place this coming week. It starts on Tuesday and goes through Wednesday. It starts Tuesday night, going into Wednesday. And if there's someone that you would like to honor for the holiday of Tu B'Av, it doesn't only have to be romantic love. It's a very popular day for weddings in Israel, but it doesn't have to only be about romantic love. If there's someone like you would like to honor, go ahead, put them into the chat, and we will make it very much a part of the celebration today. So we are so delighted today to have with us, as I said, Ella Milch-Sheriff. She is one of Israel's most prolific composers. Her works are played worldwide. Recently, she had a piece played by the Boston Symphony. She composes in a lot of different venues and types of music, including operas, orchestral and vocal music. She does chamber as well as solo music and even film composition. So today you're going to meet and get a taste of some of her works. Indeed, her lifetime work has been honored for a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Society of Authors and Composers just recently in 2022. In 2015, she won the Israel Prime Minister Prize. Her very first opera dates back to 2005, and that was also a recipient of the Tel Aviv Rosenbaum Prize. She's now working on her fifth opera, which is scheduled to premiere in Vienna in 2024. So we wish a great deal of mazel and great anticipation of yet another musical milestone in her career. But really, when we take a step back from the individual pieces, which we will share a number of which over the course of this episode, Ella, I first just want to, before we dig into specific pieces, hear from you a little bit. I know you started first as a singer, even before you were a composer. Music has been so much part of your life, and you've managed to weave that into so many different forms of music. Can you tell us a little bit about that longevity? How have you managed to continue such a lifetime contribution to and through music?
Thank you, Wayne. I actually started composing at the age of 12, and then I sang my songs, and then I went to a military group in my military service, and then I studied composition in the Tel Aviv Music Academy, and then I sang more than composed, and it always went together, either or. But it takes time for a composer or for an artist and also every creator to understand what he really or she wants to do. What is the style? What do I want to say? It takes time, sometimes a very long time. And for me, it happened with the first piece that I would like us to hear some parts of. I understood that for me, as a woman and as a daughter to two Holocaust survivors, I must be connected to my own personal story. Whether it's my family story or my own feelings, thoughts, whatever, but it always have to be in a way autobiographical. And then something like 20 years ago, I got a commission from an Israeli orchestra to compose a work. It was actually the first time I had to compose for an orchestra, because until then I composed smaller ensembles pieces. And here lied my father's diary. My father, Baruch Milch, Dr. Baruch Milch, a Holocaust survivor, lost all his family in the Holocaust. And I didn't want to hear about it. I had a sister, the late Dr. Shosha Vigal. She passed away 20 years ago. But then in the year 1983, I think, or 1984, my father came to us and said, listen, I'm going to write down my memories, and you, and pointed out me and my sister, you are going to make a book out of it. So we, as second generation in Israel, we thought, oh my God, another book about the Holocaust. Even the family won't be able to read another book, but he was very stubborn, and we understood we have to do it. The story my father told in his memories became my first orchestral piece, Can Heaven Be Void, which is also the name of the book of my father that was published by that name by Yad Vashem, Israeli Holocaust, main Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. And when I got the commission, I looked for a subject, but this book looked at me and I knew I have to do something with it. And I suggest that we turn to the first part that I chose from this work, and afterwards we'll go on.
That's wonderful. Thanks for that introduction. We'll go ahead and listen to one of the first pieces of several we're going to play over the episode today.
אבא נפטר בשנת 1989, יום אחרי הפסח. חודשיים אחרי מותו הגיע טלפון מירושלים. גברת צעירה שדיברה אנגלית רצוצה במבטא פולני כבד ביקשה לדבר עם אבא. מאוחר מדי, אמרה אמא. אבל הפולניה התעקשה. היא עיתונאית מפולין ונמצאת בביקור בישראל. נמצא אצלם כתב היד שלו, חלק מיומן שכתב בזמן מלחמת העולם השנייה. היא יודעת ששנים רבות ניסה להשיג את כתב היד הזה. הם מבקשים רשות לפרסם חלקים מן היומן. החלטתי להוציא את כתב היד מפולין ויהי מה. הגעתי לוורשה, לבדי, בלילה. היה קר וירד גשם. הכל נראה אפור ומדכא. הייתה תחושה משונה של מקום מוכר מאוד, כמעט משפחתי. לצד זרות גדולה ומועקה, כאילו חזרתי למחוזות ילדות. הגעתי לבית הקברות הגדול של העם היהודי. כתב היד של אבא המתין לי על שולחן עץ צר וארוך, בשני תיקי קרטון חומים קשורים בשרוך. נדהמתי. לא תיארתי לעצמי שיהיה כל כך הרבה. אבא כתב בעיפרון בכתב יד צפוף, אבל ברור ונמרץ, במחברות של בית ספר. כל עמוד היה מלא מקצה עד קצה, מלמעלה עד למטה, ללא שוליים, אפילו על כריכות המחברות.
ביום שישי, 1 בספטמבר 1939, החל הסוף של חיי האמיתיים.
Ella, I feel like I'm in very much in the audience listening to the Hebrew, the English translation, the narration. I feel like I'm reading a diary as well as listening to your own story, as you said, autobiographically appearing in 3 dimensions. When did you realize all of those things could happen in the format that you chose to create?
I don't exactly understand your question. When did I decide to compose?
When did you,
such a work?
Given all of the different elements involved, when you first started writing this piece of music, were you able to envision that it would someday appear in the form that we just saw this first piece, or did it happen over time as you worked with the different musicians?
No. It was a commission. I knew the date of the performance, and during composing this work, and you will see in the other parts, which is easier for me not to tell, but that you will see it in the work, because every word in this piece of music, the narration and everything is true, is taken from my father's diary. And it was the first time for me that I really confronted with my family story, with the horrors that were in my house, and I didn't understand exactly why, but not only I didn't understand, I didn't want to know. And this is very important to understand. We Israelis in Israel, a second generation, for instance, I ate Shoah, Holocaust, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I had enough. I didn't want to know, but it was too strong. So if you don't mind, we'll go on to the second part.
Please, let's cue that second tape.
מאי 1943. אקציות עקובות מדם. גורלם של הילדים היהודים הוא הנורא מכל. הרוצחים לא יורים בהם, זורקים אותם לבורות בעודם בחיים. אנחנו נמלטים ממקום למקום, בלילות לכפרים, בימים חוזרים, את הילד משאירים אצל סבתא, בדירת מבטחים בפרבר, חוזרים הביתה. ב2:30 בלילה מתעוררים מדפיקות בדלת. זאת אקציה. נפלנו בפח. מה עם הילד? אורחים. 34 שעות של אימה נוראה מתחת לקש, בעליית הגג של מנזר סמוך. מה עם הילד? מראות נוראים דרך חריץ בין הקרשים. ילדים עם ראשים מרוסקים, גופות נשים וגברים שותתי דם. טבח! מה עם הילד? חייבים לרוץ אל הילד. מאוחר מדי. לא, זה לא יכול להיות. איך יכול להיות שאף אחד לא הסתיר את הילד? בכל העיר לא נמצא אפילו אדם אחד שהיה מוכן להגן על הילד שלי. תמיד עזרתי להם, ילדתי את הילדים שלהם, הצלתי חיי חולים רבים, ולא נמצא אדם אחד שיציל את הילד הבריא שלי. הולכים לבית הקברות בנתיב המוות של הנרצחים. תמונות, ניירות, קעות שיער, חלקי לבוש, שלוליות דם, קופסאות ריקות של קליעים. 3 בורות ענקיים, ליד כל בור נשאר הקרש המוכתם בדם. ערימה של גופות. באיזה בור קבור? באיזה בור קבורים ממשפחתי?
Yeah, you asked me before, and I must describe to you the process. When I composed it, it was so difficult because I thought to myself, these horrible things didn't happen to somebody I don't know in Alaska or in New Zealand. It happened to my own father, and this destiny streams in my blood. And I knew, but I didn't tell anybody. I knew exactly how the audience will react, because I knew that it's impossible to take it. And when we go on, you'll see this work was translated after the first 5 performances in Israel. You know, people from the hall 5 times came to me and hugged me, people I didn't know, and just told me, Ella, you must translate this piece and go to the world. And that's what I did. This work was performed all over the world for Jewish people, but non-Jews, mainly non-Jews, and the reaction was always the same. Even for young people, older people, my generation, whatever. So, but the story didn't end. It goes on. Can we see the other part?
Yes, let's move to the next segment.
ב-18 ביוני, ב7 בערב, עולה גיסתי עם בנה מהמחבור. הילד מתחיל להתפרע. קופץ בעליית הגג כמו ציפור ששוחררה מכלוב. אי אפשר להרגיעו. לפתע מזנק גיסי ממקומו. הוא לופת את צווארו העדין של בנו ביד אחת כדי לבלום את צעקותיו. עיניו של הילד מתגלגלות מיד בחוריהן. לשונו משתרבבת מפיו ומשתתק. לשחרר? כן. לא. כן. לא. אינני יכול להחליט. גיסי קורע על ברכיו ליד בנו ללא תנועה, פניו לבנים כסית. הוא לא מסיר את עיניו מפני ילדו הגוסס. פנים שהולכים ונעשים כחולים, סגולים. תפסתי בידו של הילד. אין דופק. כך, בתוך 2 דקות, בדממה וללא יבבה אחת, הסתיימו חייו של הילד, משוש חיי הוריו, לעיני אמו ובני משפחתו. באותו רגע חשנו שחדלנו להיות ככל האדם.
Ella, before we play the final segment in this series, you mentioned that in addition to the premiere in Israel and the kind of reactions you got, that I'm thinking about that very last sentence about all of humankind feeling apart from that, and how do you think that people have related to the power and the story that you're telling in the way that you've told it outside of Israel?
Well, I think that telling a specific personal story can affect people to understand a tragedy of a much bigger, let's say, the tragedy of the Jewish people, or the tragedy of the Holocaust, or the tragedy of Second World War, where not only Jews were killed, but when you tell one story, and if you are able to tell it in a way that it goes into the mind, but also in the heart, to the heart, people understand the much bigger scale. It's very difficult to understand that 6 million people die. But when you hear one so-called small story of somebody who survived, but he was like a dead man living after what happened to him, you understand much more the big tragedy. And I think that's what happened. Also, you know, I had meetings, and this work was played to pupils the age of 15, 16, 18, and their reaction, you know, it was also played in Germany. And I remember one of the pupils who was half German and half South American said, "Oh, I'm so lucky, I'm so glad that half of me is not German." He was devastated. You know, it's, they learn about the Holocaust at school, or we hear stories, we see films. There is so much about the Holocaust. But sometimes the combination of music and text, true text that tells a small story of one person, can make you believe much more. And I think that's what happened all over in the States, in Germany, in Poland, in Lithuania, in Italy, and I even don't remember, but many other countries.
Let's play the final segment from this first opening piece, and go ahead.
יולי 1943. אני מסתתר בעליית גג של עורבה בכפר, אצל אנשים טובים. סכנת מוות עדיין מרחפת על ראשי, וחוסר הזהירות הקל ביותר מצידי עלול לעלות לי בחיי. אינני יודע אם אזכה להשלים את הכתיבה. ואלה דיברותיי. לא יהיו לך אלוהים אחרים על פני עצמך. עשה רק מה שמועיל לך עצמך, ואל תקריב עצמך למען הזולת. מצא את החיים עד תום, תהנה מכל רגע. תאהב את עצמך, תאהב את עצמך מעל הכל. אל תעשה לזולתך את האהוב עליך. אל תאמץ את רוחך לשווא, הקשח את לבך, אל תקשיב לו, אל תקרב יותר מדי לאנשים, אל תקרבן אליך, אל תסמוך על אף אחד, אל תאמין, השמיים ריקים.
Wow, that's such a powerful statement, and it feels like just the survival of the memoir itself is a miracle. The ability to then share that in unique ways with people is a second miracle. But your work, you know, maybe we can use that as a transition point. It's such an interesting title for your next piece, Baruch's Silence. Can you tell us a little about the title a little bit as a way to introduce us to the next series of clips we're going to hear?
Okay, so it was important for me to hear the last segments, because these 10 commandments that my father wrote in his original diary written in Poland, that we understood, that we found after he died, these 10 commandments were actually the basis of my sister and my education at home. My father actually educated us, or make us live according to these terrible 10 commandments that he invented. This piece was played in Germany, and a director of an opera house came to this performance, one of the performances, and approached me to compose a real opera based on this story, and actually on the relationship between the father and the daughter. I was reluctant. I wasn't sure that I'm able to give my father a singing voice. In the previous work, he was narrating, and the singer, the daughter, was singing. But in an opera, everybody has to sing. And I was not sure it's possible. But luckily enough, I had a partner who wrote together with me a fantastic libretto, which made it possible for me. And actually, the opera Baruch was my father's name, and the silence of Baruch, the silence meaning he wrote, but he could not speak about it. He really couldn't. You know, when I was 13, I came back home one day from school, earlier. My father was a physician, he was a gynecologist, and my mother was a nurse. She worked with him. They weren't at home, and I loved books. So I was looking for a book I hadn't seen before, and I found a big brown book, which was called Book, the name of my mother's place in Poland, now Ukraine. It was Galicia, if you know. And I opened this book, and there was an article by my father where he writes about his first wife and his 3-year-old son that were killed. And that was the first time I realized that he had a first family and that I had a brother that I didn't know about. So this opera tells a story about a girl, a daughter in Israel, who comes to the house of her dead parents. Everything is covered, and she starts to look at the things around, and the ghosts of the house are coming and surround her and singing to her these 10 commandments that you just heard, but of course in a different way, a different music. And the father and mother comes to life. In the opera, you can do everything. It's everything you cannot do in theater, you can do in an opera. So the father and mother say to her, you don't understand, you'll never understand what happened to us. And she says, it's not as if I didn't want to understand. I could not. I knew there is a black monster there in their past, but I didn't know much about it because they didn't want to speak and I didn't want to hear. So this is the first part I chose from a 1 hour and 40 minutes opera.
We'll begin now with that first piece of the opera.
Verstehst gar nichts, du verstehst gar nichts, du verstehst gar nichts, du verstehst gar nichts. Gar nichts. Aber mit mir kann niemand. Niemand kann. Weder Mama noch Papa. Mit denen kann sich niemand, niemand des Nachts in der seltsamen Sprache. Als die Stille mit seinen guten Geistern, deren Namen nicht genannt werden. Aber die ständig bei ihm sind, tut hat eine Stimme, sondern wie in den Ohren. Nur der Tod, nur der Tod, nur der Tod hat eine Stimme klar, nur der Tod hat eine Stimme klar, nur sie sondern wie in den Ohren, in den Ohren. Du sollst keinen Tod haben, du sollst keinen Tod haben, du sollst keinen Tod haben, du sollst keinen Tod haben. Sie summen wie in den Ohren und verschweigt.
Okay, I saw a question that somebody asked, why do they sing in German? So it was a commission by a German opera house, and it was written in the German language. And when it was played in Israel, I made a variation of this opera into Hebrew, and it was sung in Hebrew. And I really hope that one day it will come to the USA and then there will be a version in English. I'm so sorry we couldn't find the version that has captions in English. But I can tell you that the girl, the daughter, sings, "I knew your volcanic anger, father, your apathy, mother, your skin belt, father. Yes, my father used to beat me. He had so much anger. He was so frightened that something will happen to his own daughter because his son was murdered." So, you know, I'm sorry it's in German, but it was so important for me to be able to bring to the German people the story in their own language, because only in that way they could really identify and understand.
Thanks for sharing that, and your work spans different languages, and as a global composer, the music itself obviously speaks in a universal language, but your choice of language and your work as an author interpreting these words in different languages, I know is very intentional. Let's go ahead and play the second piece of this and hear a little more.
Do you hear me? This is the child. And the first wife.
Das Schicksal der jüdischen Kinder ist das Schrecklichste. Die Mörder schießen sie nicht. Erschießen sie nicht, erschießen sie nicht. Sie werden lebendig, lebendig, sie werfen. Ich werde es nicht zulassen. Ich bin eine Fluchtweg. Ich nehme meinen Sohn und meine Frau. Und ich will.
Okay, I just want to explain this part. We saw the first wife, we saw the son, and the ghosts, they sing like a very sweet melody, but the most horrible text of the destiny of the Jewish children was the most terrible of all. They were buried alive. That's what they're singing in this sweet waltz. If you don't mind, I would like to go to the third and last segment of this opera, right in the middle of the opera, when the family is running away, running. The mother cannot run anymore, the first wife, and the son has fever, and she stops and say, no more. And they sit down, and then she sings a lullaby in Yiddish. Now, for me, Yiddish and Polish was like forbidden. My parents spoke it at home, but I as a child, I did this. I didn't want to hear no Yiddish, no Polish. But of course, okay, Polish I understood. Yiddish I didn't want to do anything with until this opera. And then I come and I ask my aunt, the only one who was still alive from the family, what kind of lullabies they were singing at your time? And she said, only in Yiddish. And I chose a lullaby. It's not actually a real lullaby. that was written by Abraham Sutzkover, the lyrics, but the music, the beautiful music, was written by Abraham Broidner, who was killed in Vilna ghetto in 1943, the same year that the family of my father was killed. And I chose this song to be sung in the middle of the opera. And then the father looks at his daughter and said, look at him. Of course, it's not realistic, yes. Look at him, a clever and beautiful child, behaves exemplary, whispers gently, learned not to ask questions. And the daughter said, a handsome and clever child? Not like me. So maybe we can see the last segment.
The Yiddish lullaby.
Hätte ich nur gewusst, hätte ich gewusst. Das ist eine Nacht, ohne Morgen sein wird. Etwas unschwarz, dies Morgen
Yeah.
Polish, German, Yiddish, Hebrew. Are there other languages that you've incorporated into your works?
Yeah, I compose to many languages. If I don't speak the language, then I really try not only to understand what is written and what does it mean, but also how to pronounce it correctly. But yes, I wrote also a lot to English. But we cannot do it. You know, I don't want people to think that I compose only about the Holocaust. But I confess that when I had to choose for this webinar what to show from my creation to you people, I had to do it. I simply had to start with these creations because I feel it might be the most important thing I've done in my life.
Well, we are so grateful for that legacy and the commitment really of the entire Milch family to bringing alive and keeping alive these memories and these songs and these stories in such a creative medium and on stages literally around the world. And that indeed is a great legacy. Let's transition now to some of the other works that you referred to. We definitely want to recognize in the title this idea of triumph and how you have faced adversity and interpreted adversity in different aspects of your family and your own personal life. Tell us a little about the next piece in Dreams Illuminated, how that came to be.
Okay, Lives Eliminated, Dreams Illuminated is a project of paintings done by photos. You can see on the screen a black and white photo and a painting. And there are 23 paintings done by the artist Lauren Bergman. The black and white photos are photos of young girls and young women who perished during Second World War, most of them Jewish, but not all of them. And I, through my cousin, Dr. David Milch, he brought me to Lauren Bergman's studio in Jersey City, in the MANA Contemporary Center. And I saw the paintings, the amazing paintings, big, colorful, beautiful. And next to these paintings, these black and white photos telling who this girl is. And immediately I knew I have to compose to it music. Meaning it's not a kind of a background music to look at the painting and hear some sounds. It's an independent composition inspired by what I felt looking at the photo and the painting and the details of the paintings. For instance, here the elephant raises its feet, and when he turns it down, you hear it in the music. So we don't have the music here, but actually each composition has to do with the painting and the photo and the beauty and the surrealistic situation, but also the horror behind it. So this is Lady, Lives Illuminated, Lives Eliminated, Dreams Illuminated, that my cousin, Dr. David Milch, decided to raise as a project. And this first exhibition, the paintings, photos, and music is going to be in the Brandeis Institute University in the gala on September 7th in 2023 and onwards until the end of October.
Well, I know we have Cousin David in the audience, and we're going to put a link so that in the webinar chat now so that people can access that. I just love the playfulness that's brought alive when you talk about dreams and imagining that, projecting that is important even when dealing, or maybe even especially when dealing with tragedies, to show that vision of hope, to show that vision of possibility that lives beyond a specific tragedy. And it's certainly something that the arts, I think, are uniquely capable of expressing. We can read the history of the Shoah, we can try to understand the philosophical and historical dimensions, but I think it's really only through the arts that there has been breakthroughs to think about the common elements of humanity and overcoming the collective traumas as well as the individual traumas that people have experienced. And this is just such a beautiful and loving tribute, bringing alive those dreams even beyond the people who perished. Now, I know we do have one more audio clip to show, which I know you are very excited about. When we did some of the preparation for this webinar, we literally had to agree to not it includes so much that we wanted to, that are deserving of time. And but I know that there are, in thinking about the holiday of Tu B'Av, and thinking about love, and thinking about the lifetime of work that you've built, that this particular piece spoke to you, and some of the influences in your own personal narrative that were important to project. So maybe you can share a little bit about this this piece as well before we share it with the audience.
Yeah, the piece is called Dark Am I, But Lovely. And it's a quote from Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, or the Song of Solomon. I don't know how you call it in the Bible, the Old Testament, of course. It's all about love. This piece is in 8 different languages, mainly English, afterwards Hebrew, but French and Portuguese and Arabic, and it's a 1-hour piece. And I thought, how can I choose from this piece, which I love? This is one of my compositions, which I'm very fond of and very connected with. And it has nothing to do with the real tragedy. It's all about love, but here I have to say something. You know that this Song of Song book in the Bible is considered to be by the Orthodox Jews a love song to God, or to the country, to God. And we, the secular people, we simply see here a beautiful love song. I chose to bring out the love song by the woman in this book, not by the man. But as being in a very special and difficult time in my country, Israel, I want to dedicate this Hinach Yafa Ra'ayati, which means you are so lovely, my wife, to take it to the Orthodox Jews' interpretation, and to say, you, my country, is so lovely. I love you so much. But what's happening now in my country is so terrible, and we love you so much. And this is Hinach Yafa Ra'ayati, the love song, this time and the only time, from the Orthodox Jews' point of view.
What a beautiful way to think about this holiday of Tu B'Av coming up, and the idea of a woman's voice interpreting a woman's perspective, interpreting a traditional prayer like this in a form that has a modern meaning that perhaps hadn't been heard before. And I wonder if you could comment on that as you think about your body of work as a female composer, and over the period of time that you've been writing since you were 12 years old, the kind of changes you've seen, and how your voice as an Israeli female composer, creating works that go back to biblical inspirations and are now potentially inspiring people in the streets of Tel Aviv on the week of a modern holiday about love. Can you share what it means to you to, at this point in your career, to have had this kind of a stage and this kind of a opportunity to create something new for the Jewish people, but really for the whole world?
Well, I feel myself really very, very lucky. I get commissions from all over the world, as well as from Israel. I'm being played, and as a woman composer, now it's much more natural, but it wasn't like that in the past. I do consider myself a very, how would you say, very female, very feminine in my music. And I don't know if there is a masculine music and a boys' music and girls' music. I have no idea. But I know that I'm interested in my operas, in the poets I choose. Usually, I'm interested more in women poets, in women personalities. And I feel so lucky I'm able to bring it to the world. Also, Lady Lives Eliminated, this project is done by two artists, two women, about women, young women, girls. And yes, it is important to be able finally to bring it to the world.
Well, we're grateful. Our audience is grateful to you and all of the Milch family for all of their endeavors to illuminate dreams, illuminate love, illuminate life. Really an incredibly fitting tribute for a holiday that itself is being re-engineered and revitalized at a time when I think we all need more love in our lives and in the world. And we are so grateful to you, Ella, for sharing with us just a little bissel of your loving work from throughout the years. We do want to invite everyone, to look at the links and to continue to explore Ella's music and these wonderful projects made available by the Milch family. And we want to invite everyone here to come back. We are actually off next week, so we will take a break and hopefully spread a little love in other ways. But we are back again on the 13th with one of our favorites in our series with Shachar Fertig, our master tour guide. We're going to be visiting Emek HaMayanot on a virtual tour. So we've gone today from virtual stages of operatic music in Israel, and in 2 weeks we'll be back on the 13th with a special program on one of our virtual tours to a place that we're looking forward to sharing with you. So everybody have a wonderful and safe week. We're looking forward to a week of love, actually 2 weeks of love, till we see you next. And we hope everyone has a safe, wonderful holiday. And thanks again for being with us today. להתראות.